Hi, this is Vince. I'm going to share something today that I learned a while ago, and it's stuck with me ever since. And I consider it a core part of what I call the grand theory of everything, which I'm going to be sharing more about over time. This is the greatest acronym ever. It's as simple as that, and I guarantee you're going to remember it. And hopefully, if you get to use it the way I've used it with individuals, teams, and organizations, then it'll really help generate greater performance and greater use of potential and all that good stuff. So in the late 90s, I learned about the greatest acronym ever, and I have to give a name check to my colleague and friend Dermot O'Callaghan, who was, in every real meaning of the word, a wise guy. He was a guy who could take you on tangents and show you things that you knew about yourself but didn't know about yourself. It was kind of weird sometimes talking with Dermot, but he used it as part of a team building event, so for our own team, and it's something that since then I've used many times, as I say, with individuals, with teams and organizations, and I guarantee you're going to remember this, and that's going to make you laugh in about 2 seconds. So what is the greatest acronym ever? Ready? Here it is. You're going to remember it. KOAWAWDHWWSTU. And yeah, what do you think it means? I'm going to give you about 2 seconds because it probably doesn't mean anything. So, So here's what the acronym means, and hopefully as soon as you read it, you're going to understand how powerful it is. Knowing ourselves as well as we do, how will we screw this up? And yes, that S that's in there could be an F. I've used that with some teams where it's been particularly stark. So knowing ourselves as well as we do, how will we screw this up? So let me explain. We all have counterproductive behaviors. We all do. As individuals, as teams, and as organizations, we have counterproductive behaviors that have become habits. We just are used to them, and they damage our own progress. Now, we know this, and most of the time it's ourselves that get in our own way. You think about the number of times that you've had an idea and thought, I should try that, and you haven't for some reason. Or you might have been sitting in a presentation somewhere and had a really good question to ask, but thought, I can't ask that because I don't want to look like an idiot asking the silly question. And then about 2 seconds later, somebody else asks the very same question, and everyone around the room says, wow, that was a really good question. It's like, we've all done it to ourselves. So we get in our own way, we expect to get in our own way, and it's become part of our identity. You think about anything in your own life where you have a sense of, yeah, I always do that, or that's just what I do, but it's counterproductive. And so we know that we do it, but we still do it. And so when we break this down, this is how this acronym works, basically. So knowing ourselves as well as we do, there's two parts to it. Knowing ourselves as well as we do, how will we screw this up? So knowing ourselves as well as we do, what habits and behaviors have we accepted as part of our identity? What are those, yeah, I always do that? It's almost like you almost see me roll my eyes a little bit when you do it. Oh, yeah, okay. So once you've identified those habits and behaviors, how do you break and replace those habits? And this is where working with a coach can help, or working with anyone who can help you see this and build the new habits. Now, it takes about, from all the literature that I've read, it takes somewhere about 27 days to undo a habit. And or adopt a new pattern of behavior. But you have to be very careful not just to remove the old habit and without putting something new in place. Otherwise, you're going to slip back. So it's not just about breaking it for once, it's about breaking it for all time. So if you always undermine yourselves in meetings by not speaking up when you've got a question, how do you build the pattern that always will help you bring the question to there? And that may not be a habit in questioning. It might be a habit in how you make it known that you've got a question. So how do you create space for the question? Hopefully you can see the difference there. It's not about the specific behavior. It's about creating the space where you're comfortable exhibiting that behavior. And what this, going back to this, knowing ourselves as well as we do, there's in team interactions especially, which is where this weird stuff happens between people. So you think about your typical meeting in a company where everyone's sitting around a table waiting for their chance to speak. And you get into these weird situations of violent agreement where everyone's finishing each other's parts points like they're arguing, and yet they're agreeing. It's just bizarre. But what this statement does, knowing ourselves as well as we do, that's an admission that those things are happening in the team, and an acceptance that those things are happening in the team, and that we can see each other doing them, and so we can call each other on the behavior. And this is where Dermot introduced it in the very first place when we were using it. It was in a team that was approaching dysfunction. And what a great way of us actually looking at ourselves and almost taking a time out to say, yeah, we're like that. And then you can change that. You can change those, yeah, we're like that, right? And then there's the how will we screw this up? Because although there's self-awareness in that first part and things that you can change, if it's impacting performance, it's impacting performance, and you've got to get the job done. So there's a very practical level to this acronym as well, which is when those habits show up, how do they affect performance? So if we know that we always end up arguing things upon which we agree, because by arguing things upon which we agree, we don't have to argue about things that we disagree upon, then you can begin to say, well, what red flags do we put in place? So a red flag, for example, just staying with the example, I've used examples in teams where we've used yellow cards and red cards. And if we start agreeing with each other violently around the table and everyone's agreeing, we call a yellow card. It's kind of, yeah, there's a warning here, let's not do this. And then if somebody does it again, it's a red card, and we stop and we don't discuss the point again. And I've used that and it works great. It's a red flag mechanism. A red flag mechanism could be where you reopen a decision that's been made just so you can rehash a decision that you didn't agree about, for example. That I've seen that in one-to-ones and in teams and in organizations. If a decision is made and it's absolute and it's not being remade, then why debate it? And you can catch yourself doing that so that then you can do something differently. So that's it. The greatest acronym in the world, KOAWAWDHWWS or FTU. And remember what it means. Knowing ourselves as well as we do, how will we screw this up? I'll see you with the next piece of the grand theory of everything in a few days' time. Bye.